Screw the eclipse, I'm tired of it. Let's get a proper /x/thread going. Post creepy, weird and unexplainable stuff that happened to you or others close to you, but had no reoccurrence and never bothered you again. Can be green text or not. I'll start. Be Eurofag on work trip to Florida. Stay at resort with coworker for 3 days. Last night before checkout, getting drunk at bar. Coworker comes down to the bar, looks pale AF. Says he saw a ghost in his room. Clown on him, agree to swap rooms for the lulz. Switch rooms, go to bed and a few hours later wake up to noises in bathroom. Investigate the bathroom, find nothing. Return to the room, see shadow figure sitting by my bedside. Stand there in disbelief. Blink a few times and it vanishes. It all happened so fast, but I know what I saw. I'm terrified, it's almost 5 a.m., so I just stay awake, sitting in the armchair looking at the bed for what seemed like an endless amount of time. Eventually it's time to get up, take a shower and go grab breakfast and pack up. Coworker and I never talk about this again. A few days later I did some research and it turns out we stayed at a haunted resort called Casa Monica. There have been many reports of hauntings there, especially on room 411 and 511. That night I slept in room 410. Screw that place and screw Florida. Can't even sleep without getting harassed by shadows and stuff.
I was standing outside with 2 others smoking cigarettes and I was lightly tripping, but only enough to make colors brighter etc. No hallucinations. All of a sudden and completely silent I saw a flash so bright it lit the entire sky and a giant orb of brilliant white light about 2-3x size of a full moon crashes to earth. It happened in a second but I was so shocked I was jumping up and down asking the other excitedly if they saw it. Apparently they saw a flash but not the actual object. Never seen anything like it before or since.
5 to 6 years old. Living in the countryside. Every night a girl in a pink dress would climb the wall that separated my house from another seemingly abandoned house. We would talk for a couple hours. My parents couldn't see her. Moved to a different city. Never saw her again. I kind of get nostalgic about it sometimes, although I don't remember her appearance quite well. Also, I am sure that it is not a fake memory because my parents confirmed that it actually happened.
Ah, okay. I seen something similar years ago but it was 2 big flashes, and they were greenish. Be me, hanging in the parents' living room with my cousin and friend. Just having a conversation about nothing special. See bright green flash out the window with no initial noise. No cars, no lightning. All give each other WTF looks. See another shorter bright green flash. Within a few seconds hear static noise. Dad comes out a minute later spooked asking if we just all seen that stuff. To this day I don't really know what it was. I chalked it up to some kind of power surge.
My grandma has a shadow person story that she's told dozens of times. Be her, around 12 years old in the 1950s. Usually walked home from school with company, but one day stayed late helping her teacher. No one was picking her up that day and had no classmates to go with her. Forced to walk home alone for the first time. The path she took was mostly dirt road flanked by dense woods. Took around 15 minutes to get home. 5 minutes into the walk, she feels a presence following her. Looks back and notices what seems like a shadow man following from a distance. She starts panicking and walking faster. She feels the figure matching her speed, staying just at the edge of her vision whenever she attempts to look back. The shadow figure gets closer. She books it and runs as fast as she can. Towards the end of the path, the wooded area ends and she can finally see houses of her neighborhood in the distance. She starts screaming like a lunatic for help. 2 of her neighbors who were on their porch smoking, go help her. As they get close to her, my grandma turns around and says the figure that was following her retreated into the woods and just vanished. Her neighbors also saw this thing go back into the woods and disappear like smoke. They walked my grandma home and explained everything to my great-grandparents. She never walked that path alone again, and apparently a few guys from the neighborhood got together to search around the area for whatever chased my grandma but found nothing.
I vividly remember this from my childhood. Me, 10 Eurofag. Camping trip with class to a small town outside of hometown. See, the place we're staying at has a really weird vibe to it. Later that evening, go to bathroom. Open the door before turning on the light and see this creepy floating hand in the darkness. It was glowing like a glow-in-the-dark toy. Call friends over to see what I'm seeing. We all stand there and look at the hand slowly approaching us from the darkness. Friend flips on light. Nothing. See a rubber glove laying on the floor where the hand was floating. We look at each other in disbelief. Tell our teachers, they didn't believe us, go figure. I was just reminded of this after reading another green text the other day that was fairly similar. Is this a common phenomenon? Posted this in the green text thread. I've got one. Now I used a nicotine patch and put it on later in the day than usual. So that could account for this. I usually slept with nicotine patches on, but always I put them on the morning. I liked the vivid dreams they give me. But anyway. Sleep and have an extremely vivid dream. Laying on the top bunk in a bunk bed with my wife. Pretty quiet and boring at first. Suddenly hear the hissing susurration of a voice coming from below the bottom bunk. The voice alone evoked the deepest feelings of despair I'd ever felt, and the voice had nothing on the words it spoke. Told me that my faith, Christianity, was a lie and offered me no protection. Told me it would kill me and send me to eternal torment unless I accepted its domination. I was frozen. Couldn't speak. Finally I built up the courage to tell it I didn't believe it. It laughed. The laugh sounded like dried skin of a decomposed body cracking apart. I told it to leave me alone in the name of Jesus Christ. I jerked awake. Look into the bathroom. Always keep recessed lighting of bathroom on to guide my way to the toilet in the middle of the night. Light is normal, a cool white. This night it was glowing a warm orange. Lay there next to my wife frozen. Knew that it wasn't right, but also knew I was wide awake and wired. Finally fall back asleep to normal dreams. Never have ever had anything else creepy like that happen to me. The dream was bad. Felt a despair so acute I can't even begin to describe it. But the light glowing reddish orange was what made this experience stick. I was wide awake. That part I can't explain away as a bad dream.
Be me. At underground black metal and noise show in Central Mass. Vendors selling merch. Sketchy looking bald guy with head tats selling records. Ringing a little bell at everyone who walks by his table. Looks at me in the eyes and smirks with evil look. Suddenly compelled to look at his merch. Sift through records, all obscure shit and a couple classics. He touches my hand and says, "Take these ones." His hand is ice cold. In his other hand is 2 CDs. He says 5 for both, my favorites. Feels like he's looking through me. Give him a 5 and I'm on my way. Turns out he drums for the headlining band. They do black magic on stage, and the room feels freezing with dreadful vibe. Listen to record next day, nasty riffs, scary vocals and littered with uncanny noises. I'm into that shit. Research the record label on the back. Find their website. It's pretty standard for a black metal label, but has this sick grimoire look to it. Start clicking on the random sigils. My face when found a goddamn ARG in this guy's label. Dozens of hidden pages with links that lead to ritual manuscripts and unlisted YouTube videos. Videos are super creepy backroom style with occult imagery and rituals. Spend about 4 hours ripping through website. Can't seem to get through 3 password protected pages. thinking they're probably hiding unreleased music or something. Decide to sleep on it. Have this awful nightmare about Birdman with red eyes and huge black wings. Birdman is on a hill spreading his wings and looks through my soul, relaying to me all of my karma and reminding me of every awful thing I've done. Birdman drops wings and flies directly overhead, blacking out the sun and laughing maniacally. Guy from show's voice says, "Wake up. Wake up," to 50 or so crows outside my window screaming and pecking the glass. Look at CD cover art, exactly the demon I saw in Dream. Throw away both CDs, didn't even listen to the second one. Pick related CD cover art taken from the label's Bandcamp.
Be me. Really need the toilet. Run upstairs. Bathroom and toilet are in separate rooms. I have to go past bathroom to get to toilet. Glance in bathroom. Shower curtain half closed. In my mind's I see creepy guy poking out from behind curtain. He's staring at me. He's grinning, all his teeth are yellow. His eyes are yellow and red. Pale skin and crazy black hair. Get freaked out and run into toilet. Tell myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Don't tell anyone because it was just my imagination. Fast forward to next morning. Sister pulls me and asks if we can chat. I ask what's wrong. She says, "Anon, do you think the things our minds I can see are real?" I ask her to elaborate. She tells me last night I was thirsty, so I tried to get a drink from the kitchen. But then in my mind's eye I saw this really scary guy looking at me. He was leaning out from the fridge. He was staring at me. He was grinning, all his teeth were yellow. His eyes were yellow and red. He had pale skin and crazy black hair. I was too scared to go in the kitchen after I saw that, even if it was just in my head. She saw my face drop. I told her I saw exactly the same guy the day before but in the bathroom. I have no idea how that was possible. I've never had anything like that happen before or since. Seeing the spooky man was a bit creepy, but hearing my little sister describe the exact same thing the next day will probably stick with me forever.
I got one that may or may not be explainable, but it was pretty weird. Be working in the PNW coastal range over the summer in 2014. Property cuts off the generator around 10 p.m. each night. Be laying on a picnic bench in the parking lot and smoking a cigarette and stargazing like I do most nights before bed. Property is in the middle of nowhere and the parking lot is a gravel space surrounded by trees, so the stargazing is amazing. Get to watch comets for hours and can even see the Milky Way. See a little satellite drifting way up there at a decent clip. It eventually passes directly over me. The split second that it is directly above me, at the perfect zenith, the entire parking lot fills with bright white light. Brighter than day. I can still remember seeing the hard line where the light ended and the shadows began on the tree trunks at the edge of the lot, similar to if you shined one of those 100+ lumen flashlights down a dark trail. Light goes out and my eyes take a second to adjust to the dark and be able to see the stars again. Little satellite is still moving on the same trajectory and speed as if nothing happened. Ha wow.jpg. Go to bed. It wasn't creepy and doesn't really fit the bill for other UFO stories, so I never really considered it paranormal/supernatural, but it was definitely unusual. Nobody has been able to explain how it happened yet.
Be me. Around 13. Go visit grandparents for summer vacation. Chill on the porch with dad and grandpa after lunch. Very rural area in Eastern Europe, woods all around with small villages and fields dispersed throughout. Look at the nearby woods as grandpa tells a story of a small meteor hitting there last week. See a strange shape appear to the right in the distance. My face when it's a square, not a cube, square, or at least positioned so strangely that we only see one wall at all times. It's pitch black, with no discernible texture, perfectly sharp edges. Moves slowly right above the tree line, not making any sounds. It's not very big, Considering our distance to it, we conclude 4 by 4 meters or 13 by 13 foot in freedom units. We just stand there considering what it might be. No military testing sites anywhere near cause shithole demilitarized country surrounded by other shithole demilitarized countries. No commercially available drones yet at that time. Sit on the porch every day for the rest of summer hoping to see it again. Never returns. Anons, did I see a mouse, or was there some kind of technology I'm not aware of in the 2010s?
Be sick home alone. Recovering from partying a little too hard with extended family. Hugging water bottle watching videos. Comfy.png. Hear strange high-pitched sound. Assume it's tinnitus. Sound audibly changes the direction it's coming from. Good, no tinnitus. Assume it's whatever I'm watching. Stop video and the sound persists. Continue watching but the sound grows louder until it's too distracting. Turn off laptop. The sound persists. Source seems to keep changing. Get annoyed, scour the whole house assuming it's a device inside. No device you get near produces the sound. Go turn fuses off assuming it's a device you can't see. Sound persists and slowly flows louder for what has to be an hour now. Decide to go outside and take a walk cause sound too annoying to stay in. Get to the door. Pitch black outside cause countryside. Open the door. Suddenly get blasted with blinding white light, the sound gets 1,000 times louder. Pee pants a little. A lot actually. Shut the door and lay on the floor like an idiot. See light coming from one window to another through open doors of rooms. Light stops. Sound starts to subside. Sit there for a couple minutes until you decide it's a fever dream. Promise yourself to never drink again and go back to bed hoping that'll wake you up. Wake up the next day. Skin on face feels hot and dry. Drink some water and go to the mirror. Entire front of body is sunburned as if I fell asleep while sunbathing. MFW, I had spent a total of 2 hours in the sun that entire month. MFW, aliens gave me sunburn.
Be me, 8 or 9 maybe. Pretty modern house by all accounts, not very spooky. Occasionally hear a man say hello when upstairs playing. A deep voice, stretching the vowels, hello. Something old about the voice, almost trained. Always very clear but never anyone around. Shrug it off. Maybe I can hear a neighbor outside or it's my imagination. Very rational on reflection as modern me would be spooked. One night I am in bed looking down the hall at my parents' doorway. A hand creeps around the frame and waves to me. Both parents are downstairs. Nope out, start screaming. Mom comes upstairs and tell her. Looks around and nothing there. Tells me it must be a nightmare. I don't think so, creeped out now. A short while later, parents are at home but both outside. Little sister, 5 or 6, and I are playing at the top of the stairs. Hello. I look at my sister. She clearly heard it too. Did you hear that? I ask. I hear it all the time. We both hear a loud laugh, the same voice of a strained old man. But there is something wicked now, malicious. We both scream. Run down the stairs. Down the hall. Out the yard. Upstairs to the road. Both parents are washing the car. No one else is around. Burst into tears. We moved shortly after. My sister and I vividly remember this day still, almost 30 years later.
Come to think of it, I have another story that might be related. Be me just last summer. Go to bed after a family gathering. Around 3 a.m., but can't sleep. Hear faint buzzing sound in the distance. Think it's somehow produced by my drunk ear snail. Pop ears a couple times. Sound only grow louder. Very clearly is getting closer. Hear it over the house. Volume level comparable to someone mowing the lawn right outside the window. Moves over the house and slowly goes away. Definitely not a plane or helicopter, cuz way too slow. The whole experience lasted about half an hour and the sound was very different.
I had a series of glitches in the Matrix lasting about a week and never experienced them again. B. Feminine. Moving to new flat with boyfriend. Go for a walk around the area. See cyclist on a straight road with no turnoffs. Truck passes cyclist. Look away for a second. Cyclist is gone. The truck is still in front of me. Passes me, I look behind it, no cyclist. Assume he must have turned into a driveway obscured by truck while it was passing him. Cyclist rides past me from the opposite direction not even 30 seconds later. Literally the same day. Take laptop out of my bag. It's a ThinkPad like mine, but one generation newer. Ask boyfriend if it's his cause he's oddest ThinkPad lover and has like 5. It's not his. Has all the same stickers and all my stuff on it, but definitely newer. I 100% had one that can't move its screen 360 degrees and doesn't have a touch screen. We even discussed getting me one that does for my lectures. Find an old t-shirt with a very distinct print in my drawer. Thing is, I ripped it into pieces and used as a rag a couple days before as I had nothing to clean with. Open kitchen drawer to get knife. Grab new knife. Handle is black with green. It was black with orange. Check order I placed for it online. Clearly says orange. Cooked with these knives several times before and really liked the color, no way I misremembered it. Sheets I bought from IKEA somehow have a tag from a different store. Have 8 tarantulas cause big bug enthusiast. Go to feed them one day. 7 terrariums. Boyfriend, what did you do with my curly hair? GIF. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, says I always had 7. I even had a notebook dedicated to my tarantulas to note down their preferred conditions and behavior. There was a curly hair in the notebook. Have a spider that's a real runner. Don't close the door all the way after feeding. Spider escapes. Go to the kitchen for a cup cause venomous one. Go back. Spider in the terrarium, closed all the way.
Be me, Swiss Anon. Driving home from Spain Trough Bordeaux, stay in a Airbnb with garden, in a village called Saint-Palais-sur-Mer. Go home after dinner at 11 p.m. Lay in bed. Hear a sounds. Like someone is breathing trough a machine, deep breath in and out trough the mouth. It doesn't stop for 20 to 30 minutes. Get my clothes on, tell my ex-GF I will go and have a look. Maybe someone is dying keck. Go out, listen to the sound coming from the house next to me. On the other side is a bigger property with a stone wall, little bushes and trees and a big house 150 foot from the street. Suddenly, the sounds comes from behind the stone wall. Go there. Looking into the property. Nothing. Out of nothing the sounds is right next to me. While turning/spinning around I take a look at the point where the sound is coming from, nothing. Run as fast I never run before or after in my life. It followed me to the fence of the Airbnb property. Look at the gate from the window, nothing to see, but you clearly hear the breathing. WTF. Stay inside, GF crying. What do? Anon, your head is playing games. Call ambulance, sound still going for 15 minutes. Ambulance arrive, suddenly nothing to hear. Go into the large property, it was to be sold, searched the property for 15 minutes, told them what I heard. They make fun of me in French, thinking I don't understand he have seen a ghost. Me, chimping out, I didn't drink, smoke or anything else. Nothing, after 20 minutes they go. Go inside. No joke, 1 minute later, the same sound started again. GF wanted to just GTFO. Closed the window, told her to sleep, what we did. I honestly can't explain it. If it would have been an animal we would have found it and the sound wouldn't just have stopped and started again.
Not enough Inna Woods stories here, so I'ma post mine. Love you T6. Be 16-year-old tard. Visit grandparents in a very rural area frequently. Go for night walks in a woods. Take cousin with me one night. Moon is really bright. Leave flashlight at home for more spooks. Decide to try a new trail we've never walked before. Get lost, of course. Roam around for hours trying to go the direction we came from. Fail miserably. Deep forest, way darker than the part we came from. Smells like something died nearby. Smell comes from the very direction we're heading, decide to still go there cause we're convinced. It's the general direction of our village. Come to a small overgrown field with an old, clearly abandoned house. These are pretty common in the area. Stop and try to get signal or check maps. No luck. Give up on saving battery and turn on phone flashlight. Go towards the cabin hoping to find a landline phone. Obviously it would be disconnected, but we were desperate. Dead animal smell is clearly coming from the house. There are some faint wettish sounds coming from the house. Would never hear it if not for the fact that the forest was completely quiet. Stop in the doorway whispering to my cousin that we should probably leave. Don't be a pussy anon. Screw you, I'm going. JPG. First room is totally ruined, someone must have searched it for valuables. Smell is pretty much unbearable, so go around the room as quickly as possible. No phone, of course. Go to the other room. Cousin right behind me. I shine the shitty phone flashlight into the room. It takes us a good few seconds to register what we're seeing. There's a badly decomposed carcass on the ground, can't really tell what animal it is. 3 deer are standing over it. They lift their heads up in unison. Their mouths are covered with brown, decomposing blood, there's some kind of tissue hanging from one's mouth. One of these bastards turns towards us and stands on its hind legs perfectly upright. Fight or flight kicks in. I book it out of the cabin after cousin. Turn around. One of the deer is standing, yes, standing, on 2 legs, on the porch with tissue of whatever poor critter it was eating still hanging out of its mouth. Cry and shit my pants a little. We run in a completely random direction, tripping over fallen trees and getting slapped in the face by bushes. Cousin runs face first into a huge spider web. He's terrified of spiders. Stops and starts yelling he can feel it under his shirt. I tell him to SDFU. He does, sobbing slightly. We hear a faint sound of twigs breaking behind us. I shine phone flashlight into the brush. 3 pairs of eyes reflecting light in the distance. Run cousin anon, run. We keep getting screwed by the bushes. Whatever spider was under his shirt has surely fallen out or died from all the twig slaps we endured. But he keeps sobbing. After what felt like a marathon, we run out onto a dirt road. Follow it until we see houses. See street sign pointing to our village. We're saved anon. Walk back to the village in complete silence. By the time we arrive, the sun is up. Cousin only speaks up as we step on the porch. Anon, did you see what these deer were eating? A decomposing animal, why? There were scraps of clothing on the body. My face when deer ate a dead guy.
This one happened to me and my friends when we were tripping on acid. But when we sobered up we had evidence it had really happened. Here goes. 4 of us had taken acid a few hours earlier, pretty low dose. Sitting in the dark watching movies, just hanging out and having fun. Buddy gets a text on his phone. Vibe immediately shifts. We all feel it instantly the second we hear the message alert. Buddy Tyler's face drops. Ask him what was wrong. Phone showing a message from Katie. Weird message. Just repeating the letters I and C over and over and over again. Katie was a friend who had died in a car crash not that long before. Had just been buried. Vibe is now very, very off. Everyone feels a deep sadness, like we'd just gotten a call from the police that a family member died. We try calling the number back. Hear the message informing it was no longer a working number. Trip was ruined and we were all genuinely glad when it was over. This is back in 2009 before any of us had a smartphone. Now what made this messed up is the message was still there when we were all sobered up. Our buddy Alex called us the next day and asked why we hadn't answered his text the night before. Told him we never got it. My buddy Tyler asked him what time. It was sent at the exact same time we got the creepy text from Katie. Somehow the messages got crossed and instead of getting the text from Alex, it was that creepy-ass text from a girl who died. Probably just a weird technological quirk but happened during a trip. Worst timing possible. I've not done acid again since.
Be me. Basement neat who lives in parents' basement. Really like listening to music, and whenever I get into a good groove I like to get up and autistically dance / move around / bang my head. As I'm thrashing my head and flailing around like an autistic piece of shit, I swear on the Holy Bible I saw what looked like the dark silhouette of an upper body and head peeking at me from around the corner to another room in the basement. It was so fast it wasn't even a split second but less than that. And by peeking at me around the corner, I don't mean that it was standing on the ground peeking at me. It was like it had to have been suspended in the air, horizontally, and peeking around the corner. The only feature I can recall was that it had hair, but other than that it was near pitch black. In the mere instant it took for me to stop flailing around and look back at what I just saw, it was gone. There was nothing in the room that I could have mistaken for it, no shadow on the wall or object or anything like that. Pic related, spent 1,000 hours drawing it.
I think I was telepathically visited by an alien at the age of 15. Be me super into alien shit. Never really fantasized about it. Read a lot of shit about it. Right now I'm dreaming. Chilling on my grandparents' apartment. Look in front of me. Alien from a book manifests right then and there, humanoid. Wake up. Same situation happens in real life. Get massive lingering feeling of deja vu. The catch is the alien didn't appear, but I still got deja vu. How is that possible? Does this mean the alien put itself into my dream so it can say hi? Why did I only get the lingering feeling of deja vu but it never went through? Why me? Most of my deja vus come from me already seeing them in my dream. The fact that I can so vividly remember it and get the feeling of deja vu means it's not a coincidence. But if the alien was supposed to appear, then why did I get deja vu when the dream was incomplete?
Family goes overseas. I stay home by myself. Go to bed. But first turn off light in kitchen but leave hallway light on. Wake up in the morning to piss. Walk out of bathroom. Something doesn't feel right. The hallway light's off, remember leaving it on last night. Consider the possibility that the bulb probably burned itself out. Go to switch and find that it's off. Windows locked, front/back doors locked yet hallway light off. Check switch, light works perfectly but it was off. Still don't have a clue.
Be middle school me. Just coming home from school, mom driving me home, have my backpack that I knew for a fact was on my body. Get home, put my backpack in my room and play video for the rest of the day, normal stuff. Next morning, getting ready for school. Where the hell is my backpack? Look all over the place, can't find it, so I just go without it. Lo and behold, my backpack is in my locker somehow. All the stuff I had was still in it as if nothing out of the ordinary happened. Get home and tell mom, brother, and stepdad about the backpack incident. Ask if they saw me coming home with my backpack the day before and they all say yes, they clearly remember me having my backpack. Tell them it somehow appeared in my locker despite being on me as I was coming home, in clear sight of the whole family. Nobody knows how or why, but we all clearly remembered me coming home with the backpack that subsequently disappeared from our home and reappeared in my locker. I am convinced this was a glitch in the Matrix type deal. There is no logical explanation for how this could have happened other than some kind of fluke. Unfortunately, I can't confirm if the universe is a matrix, but it is something I personally believe. I don't think there was any rhyme or reason as to why this happened, and it was just some random freak occurrence that can't be reproduced through normal means. What do you think might happen if you chose to follow this word to its natural conclusion? I generally don't believe that dreams hold any weight on reality, but I do wonder if humans can know words that hold real weight in the universe. I think I would want to know where the word leads, even though I don't think the consequences it holds are real.
Be Eurofag me. It's around 4 a.m. Get up to go to the kitchen. Hear a noise that sounds exactly like the Shepherd Rise glissando infinitely descending tone coming from outside. Go to the balcony to check. I see a weird, triangular, black shape flying right above my house. I just barely saw it before it flew over. I go to the other side of my house to try and spot it again. It never shows up after flying above the house. I'm in the middle of the city and the biggest kind of bird I see here are seagulls, and even their wingspan isn't as long as what that thing looked like, not to mention I've never seen a seagull flying around that early in the morning.
Be dumb teenager in a small town with nothing to do. There's an abandoned power plant just outside the town. Security still on premises, but all valuable parts and equipment were already stolen or damaged beyond salvation, so they couldn't care less if teenagers enter. Parents out of town. Offer friends a trip to the power plant at night for spooks. Equally dumb slightly older bro offers to cover for us and tell other parents we're home with him. Pack up some snacks and beer. Dad will blame bro anyways. Tell spoopy stories on the way. Friend 1 tells us several people died in an accident and that's why the power plant closed. Friend 2 says there was a fire and many employees died because not enough fire exits. Friend 3 says his grandpa worked there way back in the day and it doubled as a research facility with many underground levels. Cut the bullshit. Friend 3, what would they research underneath a power plant? Get to the plant through a hole in the fence and hide from guards just for shits and giggles, as they wouldn't do shit. Make way through a completely empty field and parking lot. Main entrance to plant wide open. Go to lowest level and sit down with our beer at the end of a corridor. There's a heavy metal door with a clearly not working keycard scanner. First door like that we've seen. Start discussing what's behind it while sipping beer. About 10 minutes and hear a noise behind the door. Sounds like a metal pot dropping to the floor or some shit. Spooky.gif. Decide it's probably an animal that got through the vents and is making a mess inside. Friend 1 gets up and tries the door. Takes some effort to open as hinges rusted, but gives way. We get our flashlights and enter, beer in hand. There's a naked hunched over guy standing there staring straight at us. Skinny AF and like 6 feet 8 inches without even correcting his posture. Book it out of there and never tell any adults. Since when do Wendigos live in abandoned buildings?
12 years old. Go to sleep. Wake up in the middle of the night. See 2 floating eyes circling in my room and look at me. They eventually fly away fast.
Be me. Lying in bed in the dark trying to sleep. Suddenly notice basketball-sized golden orb float through my door. Orb floats over and flies into my chest. WTF. Figure it's just a dream. Never wake up. What the hell was that?
Wake up around 2 a.m. Can hear housemates in other room. Look to my left in my room and see 4 to 5 shadow beings stood around near the door talking. Oh shit. Move to get up. They all turn to look at me. Disappear. The end.
This really isn't that weird and probably has some easily explainable cause, but it's always bothered me because it indicated a pretty big fallibility in my brain. Many years ago. Work on the loading dock at a big mall. Driving to work, listening to radio. News mentions that someone tried to do a ram raid on one of the ATMs at the mall, but failed, still left significant damage, describes in some detail the damage in part of the car park where it happened. Go to work as usual. Lunchtime, go to food court, decide to check out the damage. Nothing. They cleaned that up fast. Talk to guys at work. Have no idea what I'm talking about. Getting haircut after work. Hairdresser says he heard nothing about that. Talk to guy at electronics store, says nothing of the sort happened. Go home and go online. 0 reports. Check local paper the next day, absolutely nothing. Get so annoyed I phoned the station and a couple of days later they surprisingly phoned back. They confirmed 2 of the news stories I remembered that played alongside it, a rugby thing and a thing involving the building of a mega church, but nothing about ram raids or ATM theft. I suppose the explanation is that I just had a false memory incident, but it seemed so extremely real. Not like a dream, but exactly like any other memory. This has always bugged me, because it makes me wonder. A. How often this happens to either me or other people. B. How shitty old age will be with your memory short-circuiting all the time.
I've got a story that happened to me a few nights ago. Go on walk at 2 a.m. just to chill. Walk down the main road next to some bushland. Since I'm alone, I decide to run my finger along some metal fencing and let it ring out like a giant metal harp. A minute later, when I'm well past the fence, it suddenly rings again the exact same way. Turn around and see nothing there and no possible place for anyone to hide. Try to replicate the delay ring even though it's clearly not possible. Can't get it to ring at all anymore. Voodoo dude, no idea what could have even caused something like that to happen.
B4. Really sick, 103-degree fever. Can't get up, can't move, can barely think but still aware I feel like shit. Parents, being who they are, leave me in my bedroom after giving me an ice water bath to drop my fever. Didn't help. Pass out. Wake up in the middle of the night, probably 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Feel horrible but I feel compelled to sit up. Hear a voice in my head that sounds like my own. If you go back to sleep, you will die. Decide this is strange and also doesn't make sense. Try to go back to sleep. Insides convulse, feels like something hot and sharp is churning all the muscles in my abdomen around. Get up out of bed. Feel horrible so I try to lay on the floor and sleep. Pain starts again. This happens every time I try to stop moving my body to rest or sleep. Walk circles around my bedroom and wander the second story of the house until sunrise. Very long and boring and painful. Reach point where body is almost too tired to move. Alternate between leaning against the wall to rest and enduring the body churning pain. Sun starts to rise. My body feels more my own again. Muscles inside my stomach still try to twist up when I lay down. Tolerably painful so I don't care. Go to sleep. Logical explanation is psychosis caused by high-grade fever, but I think of it as the night something crawled in my head. The peculiar balance between needlessly cruel and helpful always stands out to me.
Be me, Ausfag. Around 12 to 13 years old. Laying in bed at around 1 a.m., can't sleep. Sit up in bed and look out my bedroom window into my backyard. 5 glowing, golden triangles in a V formation fly through the sky over my house. Sit there for the next hour wondering WTF I just saw until I fall asleep. They went by really fast, I only saw them for about a second and a half. MS Paint mock-up drawn from memory cause I felt like it.
Have very close relationship with grandparents my entire life. Literally every year of life until I was like 20 we go to the same RV campground for summer vacation. Doing our usual yearly stay in 2015. As we're getting ready to leave, I'm outside asking Grandpa if he needed help packing anything up. During this exchange I feel floaty, lightheaded I guess. Everything gets really bright for a very brief instant. Within my mind, I hear a voice that isn't my own say this is the last time you will all be here. WTF. Lightheadedness goes away, vision returns to normal, the whole thing maybe lasted 5 to 10 seconds tops. Well okay then. JPG. Fast forward. Brother moved out for college the following year and never really visited home thereafter. I got in a super toxic relationship that winter and also slacked heavy on the family time, and in 2019 Grandpa passed away. TFW some universal force decided to tell me this was my last vacation with my grandparents ahead of time. Never had anything like that happen again, and still have no explanation. Wasn't high, wasn't drunk, etc.
B. Fall of 1998, about 10, rural NC. Outside with 5 cousins one afternoon. Girl walks over from another house. Skinny brunette with long hair, tall but close to my age. Asked to join. Fashion crime of sweater, fancy church slip and oversized denim overalls dress, the thing was size 14, she was a size 8. Cousins are assholes and mock girl for fashion, but I didn't mind because she was friendly to me. Poke around in barn nearby. Brunette right behind me and last in group. Without warning hear yell above me. Brunette was dangling from rope with a large hook, hanging by her dress straps about 8 feet in the air. Falls to barn floor out of oversized dress, just in sweater and church slip. Asshole cousins mock more. Says something shoved the hook through back of dress, and yanked the rope up within a few seconds. Believed cousins did it, but can't explain how when everyone was in front of her. Find rope tied off on a roof beam of the barn. Couldn't reach it so used a knife to cut it. Brunette thanked me for getting dress back, got a hug out of it. Everyone weirded out and nopes out back towards the house. The weird part? You had to use a ladder to get to the roof beams, and there was none. Met Brunette a few more times, never went back to the barn. She said that was the only time someone tried to do such a prank on her.
Me and a couple other family members have had some sort of strange experiences on my grandparents' property. Be me. Live in the deep south. There's 2 houses on the property, the original house that was built in the 1880s, and a second, older house that was moved there in the 1930s. I live in the second house. It's been renovated, but the original house was from about 1840, and served as a slave house on a plantation. The house is laid out like pick related, or at least as well as I can draw it in MS Paint. The original part of the house, I believe, is the main room and kitchen, the rest of it has been added on to in the past 180 years. This is just basic info to visualize what happened. First experience. B. An old room, back corner of the house, on my computer because I was a lazy fag. I took my headphones off for some reason. Hear a very clear, distinct 2-note whistle like you might do if you're trying to catch someone's attention. Sounds like it's coming from the kitchen, assume it's Dad because it sounded like him. Can't see because both bathroom doors are closed. Walk out, he's not home. I've had some weird experiences out on the land itself, but nothing terribly interesting, so I'll just tell an anecdote from my family instead. Not green texting since hard to format. The main house on the property is sort of weird. It's also been added on too, but the front of the house is more or less original to the 1880s. It's always made my family nervous. My mom's side has the site, and I believe my brother and I both got some form of it. The upstairs area is especially bad, my mom refuses to go up there. At one point, she and my brother were discussing the house, and they discovered they'd both had the exact same dream about a third room, there isn't one, on the property with some sort of entity on it that chased them out. There isn't a third room, for the record. The way they described it was as sort of a shadow figure that evoked a feeling of dread.
Doing sexy stuff with GF. We finish and get ready for bed. Sleeping next to each other. Wake up to whispered, strained cries of help. Feel a shadowy presence next to me. GF is sleeping next to me where Shadow is. Can't move. Shadow Thing is choking her with his hands. Eventually able to move and push Thing away from her. Wake up again. Scared out of my mind. Saying prayers. This is the only experience I've ever had with anything close to paranormal/demonic. Most likely a dream, but damn did it scare the shit out of me.
I grew up in a haunted house. Didn't know it at the time, but a young man killed himself in the detached garage. I never talked to my parents about it as a kid because I'm the youngest of 4 siblings and I didn't want them to mess with me about it. As an adult, I asked my mom about it and she said that she and all my siblings had the same experience as I did. Freezing cold hallway next to the back bedroom despite it being 105 degrees outside. Interior door opening and closing on its own, marked in yellow on attached pic. Sensation of being stared at with contempt from window on the back door, marked in red. Really bad nightmares with regular frequency for anyone who slept in the nearby bedroom. Awful feeling in the garage plus unusually cold. The worst areas of activity were definitely inside the house, but then again I avoided the garage as much as possible. I assumed it was just my imagination when thinking back on it as an adult, but hearing from my family that everyone other than my dad went through the same thing was jarring. Totally flipped my view on reality. The county we lived in has all their death records public and I was able to find his name. Found his grave online to get some closure, I suppose. He would have been 53 this year, but he was 21 when he died. His mother lies next to him now. I hope he's moved on if whatever I encountered was indeed him.
Childhood years. Find a weird red metal box in my parents' closet. About the size of a small lunchbox. Ask Dad what it is. It is used to prevent the penis from entering the vagina. Years later remember the moment and realize how bizarre it was. What the hell?
Yeah, I've got one. Be me. Stationed in Maryland, Armavag, go to Patapsco State Park. Park down by the footbridge, decide to hit the bathroom before hiking. Old person is walking around playing an out-of-tune violin. Sounds creepy. MP3. Old person goes into the female side of the bathroom, I can hear the playing on the men's side. Hide in a stall until I start to feel too much like a wimp. Finally come back outside. Start crossing the footbridge. The old person starts following me. See the ruins of an old building up ahead on a hill, make for it. Get on top and turn around, ready for whatever. The old person gets across the bridge, quits playing all of a sudden and runs off down the greenway that was the direction I wanted to walk, so I wait for like 10 minutes and then head that way too. All of a sudden a dense fog sets in. Don't see another person for like 30 minutes. Suddenly see a shape running towards me out of the fog. Oh no. JPG. Turns out to just be a jogger. Fog clears up and I go about my day, nothing else supernatural happens for the rest of the day. Weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. I've coined this cryptid the Patapsco Fiddler.
Shared this before, but it only happened once, so I'm sharing it again. Hang around woods with 2 friends when I'm about 15. We always go there and make little places to sit and whatnot. Friend asks on MSN if I'm going. Pissing down with rain and generally a shitty day. Don't go. Friend comes back on MSN that night with a bit of a wild tale. Day before we'd taken a shovel with us and dug a kind of step halfway down one of the valleys to sit on. To stop it from being a muddy hellscape, we took some perspex sheeting with us, courtesy of a bus stop. Made a little roof with it. Friends went that day to dig more dirt away. When they got there, the shovel was gone and so was the perspex. Couldn't understand it because so few people go to the woods and definitely not the area we go to. They look around and find the shovel about 20 feet away, just kind of dumped in some foliage. Then they find the perspex too. The perspex is covering a hole dug into the side of the valley. Not a vertical hole but a horizontal one. It's not a small hole neither. Friendly can crouch down and fit inside no problem. Explains that he went some way in and found one of those old metal toolboxes. He opened it and it was just food wrappers. Couple of empty water bottles and a hammer by it too. Can't tell how deep the tunnel is, but he knows it's deep. Here's what sounds like someone scraping along the tunnel wall like they're rushing him. Runs out and him and friend run home. Cool story. But he backs it up. Had a K800i at the time. Took pics of the entrance from the inside, the toolbox, few others, and one of the far end which was just black with the mud walls disappearing into darkness. Sends me them on MSN. Says they're going back tomorrow and asks if I'm coming. 100%. Get there. Hole is filled in completely. Can just see the ring of where it was, but the earth is compacted. Weirder is there were no piles of dirt anywhere. It was like it had been bored and filled in just as mysteriously.
It's an uneventful story, but I saw a UFO/flying saucer once. Be in middle school. Playing on the playground during recess. See something odd above the tree line in the distance. At first glance I thought it was a plain white water tower, but there were no water towers behind those trees. One of those water towers where there's a saucer-like reservoir on top of a tall thin column. I looked closer and I realized that there were actually two saucers connected by the same central column. One above the tree line, and then the second one was partially obscured by the tree line. Pic related to help describe it. The Cylon base stars from Battlestar Galactica are closer to what I saw than anything else that I've seen depicted in fiction, but the central pillar was taller and the radius of the top/bottom saucers only looked about 100 to 150% greater than the radius of the column. I decided to climb to the top of the playground slide to get a better view of the object from a higher vantage point. By the time that I reached the top of the slide, the object has vanished from the skyline. That's it. The story is over. I don't know what I saw, but I saw something.
Nothing spooky, but still thinking about it. Have one of those random abstract-ish dreams. Live the scene, then wake up, still manage to remember it, about 5 seconds total. The scene consists of me sitting in front of a table, looking around, then looking at a person without face but with fully featured clothes and long hair. Fast forward 1 week. Chill at a friend's house I never been in before. Suddenly I sit at the table in that exact chair. Something feels familiar. Look at the person, same clothes and hair, but now I know the hair, same background and other elements in a place that I never seen. Sometimes I think of this shit, why would I see the future but not the face? Was it my brain that couldn't imagine the face, or I was unable to fetch the data from some sort of future timeline? How does time and reality work at all? At which point something is destiny and casualty? Is casualty a split of timelines that break destiny? I will never know, of course, but damn, why exactly a meaningless occasion? Do I actually see the future in my dreams but never remember it? I literally had like 2 occurrences that I am personally sure to be predictive dreams, but the other hundreds of deja vus are too generic to be sure to me.
Spooky mysterious one. Be me with my GF. Go to the fields. The field in question was below ramp and the ramp below a small road that so we were below, still property of her family. Do romantic shit, drink a beer then head towards home when it gets dark. Start going up to cross the road and get home on the other side. Before being up we see a pitch black figure, completely manta black, apparently wearing typical farmer clothes. Weirded out, she tries to ask where is he heading, no response. He gets out of sight while we are still climbing the ramp. Dude vanished, we look at each other in disbelief. WTF just happened? Did you see him as completely pitch black? Yes. We go home. I wasn't creeped out, but apparently when I bring that stuff up she gets pretty uncomfortable even after 9 years. Sincerely, I have no clue aside from believing it's some sort of shadow from a timeline or a kind of ghost.
Be me. In college through the 2000s era, mom is a big shot professor, as a result I'm a uni brat. Hung around as a kid helping out, teenager in various psych studies for Psi department family friends, spent 8 years at the uni for undergrad and grad school even though they begged me to apply to a more prestigious uni. What I'm saying is that I love my college, it's a second home to me. So I helped out a lot. We had a certain VIP that loved being on campus. Let's call him the Arab. First and last names are palindromes of each other, even weirder it's just letter plus AA plus letter. The dean is afraid of this guy, so is my boss in IT. The Arab asked my boss to help him write an email, he's notoriously bad with technology, and he has some crazy emails in his contact list. I'm talking entire categories of mostly past and a few, for the 2000s anyway, still elected, including a young Barack Obama in Chicago. This guy adopts orphans as kids and sends them to our med school after he ships them to boarding school. He's done this for 7 men and women now, all wonderful people. He also bought a historical train museum so he could live in it and spends his time running the little train people can get rides on. One of his sons runs the museum, he failed out of med school, and the staff was paid really well. His staff gets all profits and bonuses the museum makes during Eid. He also loves building new buildings on campus, he's even so humble he just wants his name on the bricks so the uni can name the building after someone for money. He a wonderful guy, right? That's what everyone thought, that he's a gentle soul. So the dean comes up to me and says special assignment, I'm now attached to the Arab permanently whenever he's here or on call. They will pay double during these times. Of course I accept, making bank helping out the town saint. Before you get ideas, the guy really was as nice to me in private as he was in public. He was really insistent on fixing how I dress and act, bought me really nice work clothes and really unusual amulets and beaded wrist wraps made out of jade and onyx. I don't know what kind of religion he belonged to because he hated Abrahamic symbols yet loved Christmas, but he was devout and it felt Christianish. In time he was a friend and mentor and he was a lonely man. His wife had passed long ago. The first couple years were amazing. We met Bill Clinton's former Sec of Defense. They smiled and chatted and caught up. Yeah, if you haven't figured this out yet, he knows practically everybody in the government. Part of my job was securing box seats for him at every major speaker invitation so he could meet them and chat, and get pics of him and the person and note down ideas for thank emails and such and set up gift reminders and such. The Arab was functionally technologically illiterate. One night he asks about my childhood. I tell him and he laughs, he's delighted because he lived in a hotel near where I grew up for a few years. Only problem is the hotel is a 5-star one. I used to stand on the beach and point at it and promise my parents that someday we will go on a vacation and stay in a place like that when I have a career. I told him that and he looked sad and said his company paid for it and to be careful about wanting things like that. One night during a warm summer he became what I can only describe as melancholic. He said he lost his wife, assistant that I remind him of and most of his staff in one night. Said someone had planted bombs at his agricultural business in Iraq in his office. He stood outside talking with some guards when they went off. He was evacuated by the guards and his remaining staff were lost to bandits who broke in and machine gunned the entire staff. The thing is, this happened during the Hussein era. I've asked other Iraqis and they've said it was an incredibly safe time and that story is unusual. Another one. A few years later I meet a professor through my mom. Cool dude, double doctorate, LT call, guy was a badass in Nam, had a bunch of shit still in him from some op behind the lines in Lithuania of all places. Said he had to kill a guy and he rounded the corner. The guy jumped out from behind some trash with a Makarov and put a round into his chest, and his buddies had to drag his ass back to the US Embassy. Showed me all of the shrapnel wounds and this very badass photo of his as a junior officer carrying a Mod Deuce with his first platoon he ever commanded. He was always very honest with me about his life and said he volunteered for any cloak and dagger shit because he got off on it so hard. He was notorious for ops going sideways and living though it. His back got messed up bad because a helicopter crashed and he had to crawl back to base with the survivors in Asia somewhere. Entire office filled with pics of him getting medals pinned, in the shit, shaking hands, very cool stuff. One day I'm helping him out, trying to build his class for him, and I ask if what working in an agricultural business in the Middle East means. He got really quiet and scary, and this old hunchbacked man loomed in front of me with the most pissed off expression I've ever seen, put his face practically against mine and said, "Stay the hell away from him." Things were never quite the same between us after that. Still an awesome dude. Another one. 15 years later. I work for a very cool corporation now. We get a new head of security. CEO said he pulled some strings and we are getting him, end of story. He's a really charming dude, and talks about safety procedures and drills non-stop. I ask him what he does. I guarded crops in Iraq, did a lot of agricultural work. I ask him about that phrase and say I knew somebody else who used to say that was his job, and he had a lot of weird stories. The guy joked and said he has a lot of weird stories too and to treasure them. I told him the Arab's name and he smiled and said his mentor talked about him when he was first in the service, and I'm very lucky to have had him in my life. Another one. The Arab had a strange quirk on top of other strange quirks. He made me Photoshop him as pale as possible whenever we'd get these handshakes with VIPs. Probably the only time I'd ever see him get agitated. He'd just stand behind my chair screaming "wider, wider" over and over until I was making him practically a ghost, and only then he'd be happy. I got a nice vacation out of him once. We drove up to DC, I had to prep a laptop and a PowerPoint for him. PowerPoint was completely innocuous. It was about a charity drive he was doing to build a monument for vets killed in the Middle East. He offered to put me and my girlfriend up in DC if we agreed to sleep in separate rooms if I'd come along and make sure his laptop was 100% working with the presentation. I get there, he drops me off a little ways away from the Capitol at the Trump Hotel and tells me to have fun and he's meeting old friends and will be unavailable. Really nice guy. Said I did amazing job and started crying and talking about how everyone will be remembered now, and gave him a really oddly shaped bracelet made out of black pearls. The saddest part was his death. Someone had broken into the museum, tied him to a chair, destroyed all of the security NVRs with probably a sledgehammer, took the hard drives and just sliced the old man open. The officers that moonlighted as campus guards said it looked like it was a robbery. Whole museum was ransacked. Town did a memorial for him. Museum is gone now, his family sold off all the items and the old mansion. What is the agribusiness? I genuinely do not know. I only ask this because I am still employed at the company with the younger, still older than me, guy who is the head of our security forces. It's also a Homeland Security maintained site for reasons. I took a peek at his resume and he literally wrote agricultural, Iraq on his goddamn resume in years 2002 to 2010. Which bothered me enough I went on here to ask you Otis what the hell this can possibly mean. Jewelry. It's all currently in a safety deposit at the bank. Next time I get there I can see about photos. I can list some of the stuff. A stone monster of a lion with a gnome head and hat on it looking ahead, looks like someone cut it with a knife, lots of cut marks on its back. A full disclaimer, a Wehrmacht cuff link that my Wehraboo friend identified. I think it's Wehrmacht. Anyone cause no SS bolts. I have one and one of his sons has the other one. He has never talked about being in the military, so I don't believe he was a Nazi. And it wasn't actually a gift from him. His son gave it to me while cleaning out the house and said he dad loved them and thought it would be a good moments. A black bracelet made out of some sort of magnetic rock, On the end is a misshapen O, like an O but the empty part is small and near the top. Jade head of Buddha, my family is Buddhist. Some sort of red rock with two sabers carved into it crossed with a single wing on each. There's also an anchor and some plants. It's not the Iraqi scimitar arch like how Hussein had though. His brass knucks, I kept them because they are cool looking. More black magnetic stones, you throw them in the air and they make a buzzing sound. A really nice gold talisman from that DC trip that looks like a guy going WTF while riding on a giant bird. I should mention the bird guy is strange. He's like a mermaid, like it's a normal looking Arab dude until his waist, then he's attached to the body of a bird with its wings outstretched. It's very obviously solid gold and a bit bigger than my palm. It's the main reason I have the safety deposit box. Other stuff. Opium. I don't think it was drugs. It's hard to describe, but he's just not that kind of guy. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I know drug dealers and they are kind of paranoid and self-serving. This guy would give you the shirt off his back in a storm. Or at least to me. That's why it shocked me when he said somebody murdered his entire staff and his wife. I don't know them at all. Did Saddam let that shit go on? Remember, this is Hussein years, not Taliban next door. The LT Colonel. He's semi-famous and controversial as hell. I'm not going to get any deeper, but let's just say the guy pioneered the concept of nuking an area and then storming it with troops trained to fight in radiation. He's also really heavily right-wing. When he retired, he told me one of his first memories was the Russians shelling his town and killing his family during lunch, and a German and Lithuanian SS digging him out and carrying him to the shelter, and the German holding him under him while the shelter got bombed. Uni got sick of him giving his opinion to everyone that the US is amazing because he killed communists for free and the US educated him and paid him for it. Oh, one more thing, he always wore a tiny pin that was shaped like a triangle pointed up. It had 3 words he told me was Taika, Phonoi and Glaukos. To avoid people calling BS, yes, I looked it up and it's technology, voice and light. I don't get what they have to do with each other, and though.
It's not spooky, but if we're posting one-off oddities. Go to dealer's house in my youth for some solid. Older nerd kid is already there. Always awkward when someone is already there and you don't know them. Knocks right before he's aware I'm behind him. Almost instantly dealer's dad answers the door. Looks mean as hell and has his fists clenched. Asks what we want. Dealer is only about 17 and I'm not sure if his dad knows he deals or not. Immediately throw it on the nerd so I'm not the one who lets his dad know what he's up to just in case. An ounce. Dealer's dad thrust his fist out in front of the nerd and holds it there. Turns to me and asks what I want. Just a half. Does the same thing with his other fist to me. Turns his fists over and opens them out. Has an ounce in his hand in front of the nerd and a half in his hand in front of me. Takes a second before we all realize how weird it is that he just so happened to have those deals in his hand that we each needed at that time. Also answered the question about whether his dad knew he was a dealer or not. I think it's one of those things that isn't so weird sounding when you tell someone about it, but experiencing it was like being on an episode of the Carbonaro Effect, only without the reveal at the end.
Get off plane. Eerie creepy music playing in the station waiting for public transport. Mediterranean-looking bus driver stares angrily the whole trip for no reason that I know of. Still keep staring after I exit the bus and start walking home. Around midnight, decide to go out to smoke. Densely populated neighborhood. Suddenly notice everything is quiet and nothing is moving. Not even a tree leaf is moving at all. There should still be people and cars around on a summer night, but there is no one around and there is no sound. No light in any window. No signs of people actually living in the surrounding houses. Get creeped out and go back home and go to bed. Wake up early in the morning and look out the window. Still no wind or movement, still everything is frozen still. Force myself to stay calm and just continue sleeping. Wake up again later relieved to hear kids playing outside.
Nothing specific, But it wasn't the only strange or unexplainable incident that happened to me between 2016 and 2019 to 2020. There was another event a bit later where I was walking along a busy pedestrian shopping street on a Saturday afternoon. A southern-looking street vendor selling some food behind a small table is looking at me as I am walking by. He seems to have a mischievous smirk for some reason. I'm about to turn around at that point anyway, so I do a U-turn and walk back towards the direction I came from, behind him this time. He is clearly aware of my location and glances over his shoulder as I walk by behind him, still smirking. Again, it's a very busy street at a busy time. Moments later, get in a scuffle with a young bald-headed gang member who gets in my face for walking too slowly in front of him. He pulls a knife and I back off on the driveway. If someone told me the street vendor and the bus driver were some kind of demons with strong magic powers, I'd be inclined to believe it. Could be the street food guy was just gay though. His expression was not hostile like the bus driver's. It really surprised me that his stare was so hostile from the moment I entered the bus, while I was preparing to greet him merrily.
15 years ago I was napping on the couch and with my cat. I was half asleep and rolled over and saw two gray aliens, about 3 foot tall, standing by the doorway. I was terrified, I couldn't move. I closed my eyes and tried to roll away, but when I opened my eyes they were standing over me next to me on the couch. I closed my eyes again and blacked out / fell asleep. I don't really know. I don't usually fall asleep that fast. I woke up about an hour later and went to class. It is still incredibly vivid. I always told myself and others that it was sleep paralysis, and it mostly likely was. I have never had a sleep paralysis event like this before or since. I tried to ask my cat about it but he won't talk.
About 4 years ago. Staying with friend in an old hotel. New Orleans, just outside of the French Quarter. Both of us are on laptops looking something up. Be sitting on bed, next to end table. Have a drink on end table, a half-filled 12 ounces can. Reach for can. As my hand gets a few inches away, it slides away from me in the opposite direction, about 2 inches. So shocked, just casually remark, the can moved. Friend turns to look. Reach out again. Same thing happens but only like half an inch this time. I'm glad there was someone else there to confirm it. Table was totally level, no condensation on can, no draft in room, no vibrations, etc. I have no explanation.
Not creepy but weird nonetheless. B from South America. It's normal to know someone who is a sort of witch/sorcerer that heals people. Not in a shamanistic way. It's just praying and or some shitty rituals, I guess what people call white magic. Anyways, Grandma and Grandpa's sister are really into it. Including some paranormal stuff. Dad too, but to a lesser extent. But me, I had 0/x/shit happen to me. At some point during my teens I asked Dad to try teach me some stuff. He sorts of explains how to channel energy through my hands. He even mentions that if you focus you can see the energy as a sort of vapor coming out of your fingers. Go figure, I never saw shit and tagged all this as my dad being autistic. Fast forward literally years, I'm sitting in the kitchen kind of laying on the table with my hands stretched in front of me, watching TV, zoning out. At some point I blink and I see literal steam coming out of my hands, like when you open a pot of stew or something. I freeze and start to freak out, telling my parents to look. Blink, steam is gone like it was never there. Nobody saw it. Never happened again.
Be me circa 1998. Fully awake, just got into bed. Thinking random stuff, waiting to fall asleep. Sheet gets tugged hard from bed's left side. Just one sudden single solid tug. In shock.jpg. Try to think of a rational explanation. There is no explanation, so prayed until I fell asleep. On retrospect, I don't know why I didn't GTFO of their screaming.
Yeah. Be me, reading fanfiction and listening to tunes cause I'm a loser. A big drop of water hits the center of my brow, thought I just started bleeding randomly for a second to hell? Look up cause there's a bit of rain outside, so I'm worried it's a ceiling leak, no water streaks or beads. Dry ass pain over my head, stare at the bone dry ceiling as I wipe the water off my head. Can't explain it. I touched the ceiling and all the windows were closed. It was a glob of lukewarm water, which is why I thought it was blood until I touched my head and looked at my fingers.
Mentioned this before and it never happened again, so it fits the thread. On /x/ a few years ago. Warm October, so I have my window open. Despite being warm, it's raining really heavily. Become aware of this noise that feels like it's been there a while, but I'm just taking notice of it. Maybe I'm just hearing things because I'm 420 blazing it. Nah, there's definitely something making that noise. Look out window. Nothing there. Although it's cloudy and almost 4 a.m., so I wouldn't be able to see anything anyway. Noise is hard to describe, it's almost like a hovering kind of sound. It's definitely coming from outside and above my house/street/area. Live more or less under a main flight path for the airport. Airport is still 10 miles away though. Seen and heard planes all of my life because of it. Definitely isn't like any plane I've ever heard. This is a shit area, so I'm even more used to hearing helicopters. Definitely isn't a helicopter. No one here has AC, so it isn't that. There's a road at the top of the street, but it's obviously not a car. Pretty much run out of ideas. Sound gets louder, like it's getting closer and then disappears before coming back again. But it's more like it's going vertically up and then coming back down, unlike a plane circling. This goes on for about 20 minutes. Figure this is /x/ related, so record the noise. Post it on /x/ no one cares. It's not really helped by how heavy the rain is, so it's hard to make out at times. I can only hear it more clearly because I know what I'm listening for. A car even drives past at one point and you can hear the difference between the car and the noise. I never really determined what it was. It was just one of those things. Nearest RAF base is 40 miles away, so you could be right. Funny thing is, where I live is between two areas. There's no real gap between them, it's just Area A, my area, then Area C. They sort of blend together as one but are distinctly different. Anyway. Read old /x/ book I have years ago from the 1980s. Lament that all of the stories are worldwide and span centuries, but there's never anything remotely close to me happens. Turns the page. 2A encounters in Area A back in the 1970s. One was just a sighting and the other was an alleged abduction. That's pretty cool, although I'd never heard of it before. Few years ago there's a massive spate of A sky sightings in Area C, even the local paper covers it with lots of cope. Try to look into this further. End up coming across a story from the 1940s or 1950s about a boy and his friend who saw eyes in the sky. Then they saw the eyes Earl. One of them tried to abduct the boy. A ended up murdered. Told you where they buried it. Then there's a whole green text about that I won't get into. Mentions how Mib came to see him. Which is unusual because this is the UK. First told his story back in the 1950s or 1960s. Even included things at the time that no one has mentioned until more recently, like how one of them looked like a gray, one of them looked like a Bigfoot, etc. Point is, nothing cool ever happens in my area. Potential for something cool to have happened was just the military with their black helicopters.
Here's one. I don't be live most of this shite, but this happened. Be me, farm boy. Born and raised in old dilapidated farm mansion. All kinds of ghost stories involving one particular wing of house growing up. Usually was creepy there growing up too. Visiting there. Staying in that wing because don't believe in ghosts. Normally hear various sounds there, whatever. Deep sense of terror late at night, maybe 2 to 3 a.m. Awake. Look in corner by door. Cloud of pitch black darkness. Body totally paralyzed. Cannot move. Goes away after a minute. Have heard of sleep paralysis, but this has never happened to me before or since. Such a paralysis. Was dead sober at the time, and before and after, no drugs, alcohol, nicotine, nothing.
Come home from friend's house shortly after college. I was 21 or 22. Go into my room I grew up in. There appears to be a face on the wall, but it's made of light. Feels like ice runs through my body. Pull the chain to turn the fan light on. Was that really there? Pull the chain again. I had to see if it was a reflection or something. It wasn't there on the dark wall anymore.
Be me, probably 7 to 8 years old. Mom and her friend take me, my brother, and her friend's kids for a hike in the woods. We come across a swampy area with a pile of bones next to it. Bones are large and various sizes but nothing obviously identifying like a skull. This is also far from anywhere where there's animals like gators. Mom and friend seem nervous and we walk back to the car and leave. Years later I ask my mom about it and she doesn't remember the incident. Brother remembers though.
Sleep paralysis. Imagine myself spinning, so I exit my body, something I read online. Exit body, golem-looking mother lover standing in my room. I use Goku-chame Kamiko wave, or however you say it in English. White light comes out of my hands, kills the mother lover. His friend sees that shit and starts running away. I start chasing him but he gets away. Don't remember what happened after. True story. I tried a weed vape once that someone was offering, didn't think much of it, but that night I had a really surreal and disturbing dream and I put it down to the vape. Never touched one since. A load of shit I can't remember. Part of Starship Enterprise crew, someone had put Star Trek TNG on that evening. Captain Picard giving a toast celebrate to some new treaty/alliance or something with some aliens or colony or something. We drink our champagne. Captain says, and as a traditional, alien, toast, your beverages contain mescaline or something like that. I swear before this I didn't consciously know there was a drug called mescaline. I thought it was just random dream shit I'd come up with. Turns out it's a real drug. Everyone starts dropping to the ground on their hands and knees. I get woozy. Start tripping the absolute hell out. It was like watching a horrific presentation while I just observed in horror. Random arm holding sticky notes with writing on them would occasionally enter the frame. Notes would be sort of fourth wall breaking hints about getting out of the trip/dream. Somehow discover the trip is being caused by some kind of psychic spider that has my balls between its teeth and is threatening to bite them while still broadcasting crazy harrowing flashing images that are obscuring it. I can see it like the trip is imposed over my room and I'm on my back in bed with the spider there. It's huge, its head is about the size of a human's. Sticky note hand pops into frame. Note says something like all you have to do is reject/denounce God and it'll be over. I'm scared but I refuse. It bites. It kills, like serious ball being clamped pain. Wake up. Lie there taking a few minutes to regain sanity after the sheer craziness I witnessed. Still terrified and expecting something else to happen. After a while I assess that I am actually awake and nothing has happened for a while. Normal day. Don't smoke any more weed vapes when offered.
Random shit that's happened in my house through the years. Felt something poking/pushing my mattress up from below the bed. Had my sheets tugged once. Felt several times someone/something poking my asshole while sleeping. Each time I woke up immediately and still felt the sensation in my ass, like confirming it actually happened. Also, felt my bed shake a few times. Some of them kind of hard actually. No earthquakes, even once I got out of it quick to confirm it was rocking. The bed only, nothing else. Also one night. All of a sudden wake up crying hysterically. Lots of tears pouring out my eyes. Could barely breath, extremely afflicted. Can't stop it, just cry like I never have cried before or after. But inside my mind I was like, WTF is going on? It's like my mind/thoughts didn't match my feelings and what was going on. If that even makes sense. I had no idea what was happening. In my mind I was normal me just wondering what was going on, puzzled. As if something had possessed me and I was just watching. I wasn't even dreaming or anything prior to waking up like that.
Be teenage me. It's somewhere around 2001 or 2002. Late evening, around dusk, but there is still a tiny bit of light outside. CRT monitor is the main source of light in the room. Chilling in my room with my dog, playing Counter-Strike. Feel an urge to turn around and take a break suddenly. Stretch and yawn. As I'm stretching, something catches my eye. There's a black orb/dot about the size of a full-grown mouse on my light gray carpet. My first thought is my dog must have shit, but I don't smell anything. My dog also notices the dot, but only after I looked at it myself. Creeps up to it cautiously as I also get out of my chair and squat nearby about 2 feet away. Stare at it, trying to figure out what the hell it is in the gloom without turning on a light. Can't make out any features. The shape remained the same and it appeared to be unmoving. It's like a spot in your vision after looking at the sun or a bright light. The dot vanishes, leaving only bare carpet. It didn't shift, stir, or run. Just simply was there and then wasn't. I don't even bat an eye because I think I'm just tripping or seeing things. My dog barks in a way that I've never heard before, literally a confused sounding bark. My dog starts aggressively sniffing the spot on the floor where the dot used to be. The hair on my arms and neck stand up as I realize I was actually seeing something and not imagining it. Still no idea what it was or could have been to this day.
While I feel it's less creepy than a lot of what has been posted here, I'll share this one since it stuck with me. I was in the military for quite a while and then got out. Have a few odd military-themed dreams since I left, but nothing particularly stood out to me until I had one where I was in a helicopter, except I wasn't me but someone else. Things were happening and it was somewhat cryptic, but I at least somehow understood that we were transporting the helicopter to a designated location. That transport involved what I would inadequately describe as someone taking a Looney Tunes cartoon hole cut out and throwing it up in the air in front of ourselves, except the hole was glowing bright yellow. It wasn't enough to blind you, but it illuminated everything. As the helicopter slowly passed through, which means moving into the glowing yellow hole and disappearing, not emerging on the other side of the hole in the air, I no longer am seeing things from the vision of the crew member. Instead, I'm watching from the eyes of a passerby, walking beside some bleachers next to a school's football field. I watch as the Black Hawk emerges from a glowing yellow Looney Tunes hole, guided by a person in uniform who is making the towards me hand motion to guide the pilot. Eventually the Black Hawk, apparently completely powered down, emerges from this hole completely intact in the middle of the football field. The uniformed personnel lowers their arms, the doors open, and they start doing whatever the hell they're doing. I wake up. What a weird dream. I think nothing about it and go about my day. 2 weeks later, while browsing some weird /x/type shit around the web, I came across an account of a person who swore they saw an helicopter emerging from a glowing hole in reality. My face when.
Be me. Heading home from 4-day weekend camping trip. Driving down a rural county highway. Late evening, sun is just setting over horizon. Really need to piss. 205 miles to next town. Lots of hills and twists in this weird area, basically a farm road, so it's barely car drivable in this stretch. Finally find a flat spot to pull over because I'm not psycho enough to stop in the road out here. No other lights for at least 20 miles, sky is super clear. Piss over guardrail into creek bed. Finish up and all other sounds have stopped. Whole back runs tense, hair stand up. Faint whistling above me, a smeared oval silhouette crossed a few stars and my vision duck into car quick. Something slams into the roof and starts rocking the car as I'm starting it. Pedal to the metal and my pause Honda Element. Something screeches, can't tell if it's my transmission or goddamn Thunderbird. The rocking stops after about 30 seconds. Drive like a wannabe rally car until I see a gas station with other humans. My front roof rack bar is missing. The gas station guy at least let me sleep parked under the carport that night. I was shook as hell.
Be 18 or 19, living at home, working part-time but mostly living like a NEET. Order some video game shit imported directly from Japan. Regular shipping says the wait will be months, so I fork over extra for the special priority shipping. A few weeks later it comes from USPS. It's a Sunday at about 11 a.m., warm spring day. Instead of a mail carrier, an unmarked, extremely nice, new-looking black car with a conspicuous white tag in the corner of the windshield pulls into my driveway. Two old white men get out and go to the porch. I can't remember their faces clearly, just that they looked very similar. They both were about the same age and complexion, gray hair, and unusually well dressed, in black peacoats and old-fashioned fedora-type hats. I kinda live in the ghetto and every single thing about them looks out of place. They knock on the door, I go out to see what they want. They hand me my package, wish me a nice day, and leave. They don't even ask for a signature or anything. It was uneventful but very surreal and exactly like all those Men in Black stories. I want to know if anyone else knows of USPS delivering mail like that.
Not scary, just a weird memory. Dad is really into motocross. Got me a little dirt bike when I was young, maybe around 6 to 8, not sure anymore. Would take me out and let me ride around in an area on it, or I would sit towards the front and my dad would sit behind me and steer, and take us somewhere. Live in rural ex-mineland. Apart from occasionally having to cross a main road, it's ideal for getting around on dirt bikes, plenty of slag heaps to climb and descend to make it fun. We would ride it up through the fields/back paths to my grandparents' house probably 5 miles away. One day heading along part of the back paths. Long path with fields/woods on one side and it follows along the long side wall of a big enclosed industrial estate on the other with a strip of grass/few trees in between. Nobody really needs to walk along this path, it's good for going on bike rides with Granddad but never seen anyone walking. This day we're ripping along it and 2 men in suits are on the path facing us. One in a full orange suit. One in a full green suit. Like smart tweed suits with bowler hats. Nobody dresses like that. This was early 2000s. They hurriedly step off to either side of the path to let us through. As we're about to pass between them, both in unison say this is a footpath. What? The end.
I'm going to cheat here because this actually happened twice. 16. Get QTGF. She stays over one night. Wakes me up terrified and says she just saw a little man standing by my TV and then hiding behind it. Bedroom is only small. There's a bed, the TV is like 5 feet away on an angle, then the door. Room is surprisingly bright because I only have vertical blinds and the moon shines right through. I can't see any little man. Go take a look. Nope, no little man there. GF sleeps at the back from then on. A year later get new QTGF. She stays over one night. Wakes me up in the middle of the night terrified. Tells me she just saw a little man ducking behind the TV. Neither GF knew one another. I didn't tell GF number 2 about what GF number 1 had seen. Other girls stayed, but none ever mentioned seeing a little man or anyone/thing else. I have no idea what they did actually see. There was once when I left a girl in my room while I took a piss, and when I came back she was visibly scared of something that had happened in the meantime. Never found out what it was because we stopped speaking soon after. Although we weren't asleep then and it wasn't even that late. More like late evening.
My little sister had an imaginary friend, I hope it was at least, and it honestly felt like a cheap horror movie. Be my little sister. Around 4 to 7 years old. Have friend nobody else can see. Friend is a tall woman with black hair. Friend has no name. Friend only appears at grandma's house. Friend constantly tries to convince you to go for a walk in the woods with just her. Friend tells you she doesn't like your mummy. Friend doesn't let you sleep at night. One day friend gets in the car with you. She wants to be with you all the time, not only when you visit grandma. Friend now lives with you. Your mom tells you you're too old for imaginary friends. Tell friend what mom said. Friend gets mad. Pushes you off bunk bed. Refuses to elaborate. Leaves. Kid legit fell off her bed right in front of me. But not like stumble and fall kinda way. More like stand up and visibly get shoved really hard in the chest kinda way. To this day I have no idea what it could be, if anything at all. I'd say a ghost, but ghosts are tied to a specific place and can't just travel to a new location.
Live in Texas. Live in a rural neighborhood. We live in a small house. Surrounded by creepy woods. Place was, hell, the whole area was haunted. One specific hotspot was my parents' bathroom. Always felt like someone watched you. Bothered my dad the most. It did not bother me much, I just used it as a way to be spooked during horror marathons or sifted stories. But like I said, father loathed that one night he's asleep and in she dream he is assaulted in his dream by some demon. Wakes up with scars. He denied it ever happened to himself and told no one. Eventually moved out and told everyone me. As a kid I was obsessed with paranormal and supernatural. Annoyed me cause I was the only one saying everything weird in our home was paranormal, but I was always ignored. Till we moved and everyone said yeah, it was haunted. I'm still pissy about it. Everyone treated me like I was schizobaka.
Thank you for your appreciation. I do have a couple more glitches to share, but they're not as big as the ones I already shared. Emo. Be me with a series of glitches. Give boyfriend keys to the trash enclosure. Go visit mom. Mom gives me the exact same set of keys, says I left them at their place last week. We had 2 sets of keys and they were both in their respective places when I came home, one in a box with spares, the other one on my BF's desk. To this day have 3 sets of keys. Have 2 turtles cause reptile enjoyer as well. One is a hyperactive ADHD tard that never stops moving around. Other is a rescue kept in terrible conditions his whole life. Can't even swim cause he's been kept in such a small tank he barely had space to turn around. Just lies around under a lamp all day and barely eats. One day my tards just switch personalities. Catatonic one is swimming around like crazy, energetic one is lying under heat lamp and looks almost dead. Become terrified. Take ADHD turtle to the vet. He's absolutely fine. They act that way for a couple weeks and then gradually go back to their respective personalities. Have favorite fabric softener. Buy it for years cause love the scent. One day grab a half-used bottle of it. Sniff as always. Smells completely different. Not even like they changed their formula different, just like. Have fresh linen fabric softener and suddenly it smells like flowers. Have designated huge plastic bowl for feeding turtles cause they eat stinky fish. Get bowl to feed turtles. Bowl feels weird in my hands. Place it by turtle tanks. It's clearly smaller than my feeding bowl. Call over sister who often stays with us. She confirms it's smaller. Ask BF if he bought a new bowl. No. Smell bowl. Sure enough, smells like fish. My face when my turtle bowl shrank. Get BF's thread chocolate. It's a really specific one with extra salty crisps. Give it to him. Damn feminine, this chocolate is delicious. Where did you get it? Reem, I always get this one cause you like it. BF swears up and down he's never had it before. Break a mug from an 8-piece set. Throw it out. Keep loading dishes in the dishwasher. Go empty it once it's done. Open. 8 identical mugs inside. Go for a walk at Grandma's. Go to World War II cemetery in a woods with a monument commemorating soldiers who died there. Monument had 4 pillars kinda shaped like open books with names of soldiers written in stone. It's an obelisk now. YTF would they change a monument erected not 10 years ago and in mint condition? Ask cousins who go there for walks semi-regularly. Anon, it's always been like that. By the end of this, be pretty sure you're going insane. Decide to take a hot bath and sleep for however much it takes for brain to function properly. Fall asleep in bathtub around 11 p.m. Wake up, it's past 4 a.m. Water is still hot. Sleepy, so the weirdness barely registers. Fall asleep again. Wake up around 6 a.m. in freezing cold water. Never experience a glitch again.
Few weeks ago. Lying in bed in the dark. Fully awake but trying to sleep. Hear the cat walk into the room. Feel and hear him jump up on the bed and curl up between me and BF. Cat's curled up behind my knees. Think nothing of it. Then think, is that definitely the cat? Scared. Muster up the courage to sit up and look. Cat's not there. As I'm typing this out, he just lifted his head up and stared at me. Aha.
Be 20-year-old Eurofag. Start getting calls from restricted number. Silent calls for first couple days. Get annoyed but can't even block number calls restricted. After that, start hearing monotone number reading in the background with some mechanical whirring. Call provider and say they're accidentally giving me test calls cause no idea what else it can be. /X/friend gets excited when he hears what's going on. Weekend, so we go hang out and he's by my phone all the damn time. Call comes in. Writes down numbers as best as he can hear them. Insists it's coordinates. Calls eventually stop when I move away. Friend still obsessed with calls, had written down numbers from like 20 of them. One of the coordinates is pretty close by. Agree to go with him after months of begging. Drive to a remote industrial area. Nothing at the spot he determined is the right one, but an abandoned factory complex close by. Go explore it. Find nothing. After that, friend becomes obsessed with coordinates. Travels to every location, keeps asking me to go back to my old place or give my phone number to him and he will. Eventually agree cause wanted to switch operators anyways. After a while stop hearing from friend. Learn from his family he went full schizo researching the numbers day and night. Went away to one of the locations and hadn't come back in a month. Replies to texts but refuses to come home. Police refuse to start a missing person investigation cause he writes back. Never hear from him again, but occasionally check bills for old number which is still registered under my name online and they're still being paid. Did a random string of numbers activate schizophrenia in my friend? Also, what were these calls? I was thinking a glitch with nearby number station, but I'm not exactly tech savvy and can't tell if that's even possible.
Be me around 11. Live in Futbuck Nowhere, Colorado. Everyone knows everyone in town and everyone's friends, that's how small it is. Our next door neighbor is a really sweet widow slightly older than my parents. Her kids go away to uni so we invite her to dinner often cause nobody eats alone in Futbuck Nowhere. Be playing around the woods with next door neighbors one day. There's a creek a bit of ways away we go to on weekends. We go to the creek to finish building our inner woods base. Arrive at the place and something stinks really bad there. See something in the tall grass surrounding the creek. The neighbor is lying in the creek, very clearly dead. Signs of animal predation and fly larvae crawling all over. Face a bit bloated but untouched by wildlife, so we know it's her. Run back to our respective parents crying like little bitches. I run through the door yelling for mom. Run into the living room. The neighbor is sitting with her by a coffee table sipping tea. She turns her head slowly and looks at me. Back out of the room and go to Dad's garage. Tell him what happened. Obviously thinks I'm dumb, but does call the police and tells them there's a supposed dead body in a woods. After that, the neighbor visited us less. See her sitting on the porch staring into the distance often, which is something she never did before. Her garden becomes an absolute mess. She always looks disheveled. Parents say it's depression, but I know better, because when she looked at me back then in the living room, her eyes were completely black.
Be me, January 2019. Driving home after picking up my roommate. Pulling up to the light where a local road crosses a highway. Suburban northern New Jersey, plenty of houses and cars going about even at night. Sitting at the light when a cluster of lights slowly crawls across the sky and over the intersection. A triangle of red lights with a white light blinking in the center. At first glance it seemed like a plane, but the lights seemed so close to us and so spread apart that the plane would have to be only 1,000 or so feet above us. Moved at a snail's pace, slower than a plane would travel if one would be so close. No sound of a motor or jet engine, just this giant triangle dragging across the night sky until it disappeared behind the tree line across the highway. Just look at each other and remark how weird that was. Just became a funny anecdote and us wondering whatever it was in the years that followed. In 2023, a local weird news magazine reports that from December 2018 to January 2019, 100 separate incidents of unidentified lights in the sky were reported over the NYC metro area, including reports filed with the FAA and USAF by air traffic controllers at Newark, JFK and LaGuardia airports.